Welcome to the Optimize Podcast, brought to you by VisibleThread. The Optimize Podcast is your go-to source for expert insights on bidding, business development, proposal management, and work-winning strategy. Each series is hosted by an expert in the field, bringing their unique experience and perspectives to every episode. We're excited to welcome Matt Light as the host of this series. With 15 years experience across every bidding role, from bid writer to bid director, Matt has built and led high-performing commercial teams, shaping work-winning strategies for healthcare and logistics businesses across the UK and Europe, and delivering an 80% plus win rate in public and private sector bids. An active member of APMP UK chapter, Deputy CEO, 40 Under 40 awardee, and one of the inaugural cohort of the Leadership Academy, Matt is committed to using his spare time to elevate the bidding profession, helping reframe it as a high-value strategic discipline, recognised for supporting organisations to unlock commercial value and growth. Now he's bringing that experience to the podcast, exploring the people, strategies and ideas shaping the future of bidding, and how organisations can turn work winning into true strategic advantage. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you're listening. Now, let's hear from Matt.
Hello, welcome to the Optimize podcast, brought to you by VisibleThread. This is Series 5. Today we're going to be talking about integrating design as a key component of the bid process. And to talk about that, I'm joined by Victoria McAleese, the Senior Bid Design Manager at Legal & General. Hi, Victoria.
Hi. Hi, Matt.
Thanks for being on. Really looking forward to this. So Victoria brings over 15 years experience from a range of commercial roles, which have given her a strong instinct for client needs, decision-making, and what persuasive communication really looks like. She's got a passion to ensure design supports clearer thinking, stronger messaging, and better outcomes for evaluators. And she's also been recognised by the bidding profession as well, having won the APMP UK Design Excellence Award in 2023. So we're definitely going to be in safe hands for this conversation, Victoria, right?
Yeah, I can't believe it was 2023. It doesn't feel that long ago at all since being at the APMP conference and going up and getting the award. So yeah, I'll have to go in again.
There's always this year.
There is.
Brilliant. So Victoria, I wanted to start talking about how you journeyed into bids, because I noticed that you started in account management roles, which is obviously the kind of the other side of selling and bidding, if you like. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what made you transition into the bidding side of things.
Yeah, so I guess before the pandemic, I was in a role that involved quite a lot of travelling. It was Black Horse, so it was to car dealerships. But unfortunately, due to a health issue, I was moved into an office-based position. It was a data-led role, and it didn't really suit my skill set, as I'm much more people-focused and end-user focused. When the pandemic hit, it gave me the opportunity to look elsewhere, internally still with Black Horse. It's under Lloyds Banking Group, so I was within that firm. I looked internally and it basically opened up positions that were originally suited to office-based location, Edinburgh or London. So they were no longer tied due to the pandemic and everybody being home-based. So I applied for a role in a bid team based in Edinburgh. I came into the role as a designer, covering a maternity leave position, and the role described to me was storytelling, taking information and turning it into something clear and engaging. So I thought, yeah, I can do that. My PowerPoint skills at this point were pretty basic, but I am a fast learner. I had a chat with the person who was doing the role, and she's like, yeah, I think you'd be great for it. Put yourself forward. So I did.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So clearly not a deliberate choice to come into bidding in that sense, but you're still here. You're still in the profession. So what is it that's kind of keeping you there, and how have you honed the focus on design management rather than, say, looking at writing or capture or another part of the bid process?
I guess so. It wasn't a deliberate move, but really interestingly, once I got into the role and gained extra skills within design, I realized that this is where I excel, and being creative is definitely what suits me compared to answering questions in RFPs and surveys. Ironically, I did get my highest year GCSEs with media studies and graphic design.
Oh, no way.
I didn't pursue that. I didn't go down that for a career until hitting the age of 30. So very interesting. I'd say it's been a bit of a squiggly way to get into design. When I left Scottish Widows, where I was the bid design manager, I actually applied for a bid manager role because I guess imposter syndrome hit, and AI worrying me came in thinking, is design the best place to go? I'm not a graphic designer, university led. I've not got any degrees. I'm self-taught. Can I take that somewhere else if AI comes in the bid world and I'm not needed anymore? So I actually thought, well, I'm APMP certified. I know the bid process. I'll apply for a bid manager role and really hone in on bid manager, because doesn't have to be pension specific. You could take that across all different industries. So I applied for the role that I got last year with Legal in General. The hiring manager at the time knew my skill set from my previous position, but we went in as a bid manager. And as we were starting to outsource our work to external marketing teams, I just stopped and said, can I have a chat to my manager? I said, I've really enjoyed bringing this team up to where we need to be from a design point of view. I don't really want to hand that off to an external team. I think there's so many benefits from keeping it internal. Could I change my role and have more of a design focus? And she actually replied, I'm so glad you've asked that. I didn't want to put you into this position because it's not what you applied for, but we've seen it. We can see the bonus. We'd love to keep you in the team as a designer. So I actually, in March this year, got a promotion to senior bid design manager. So, and that came as quite a surprise because I knew my job role was changing, but not promotion as well. So, yeah. And then it's allowed me really to look at all aspects of our bids from a design point of view and take away the noise of surveys and RFPs, because that's no longer my role, just the designers.
That's amazing. Oh, well, fantastic. Well done on the promotion, and credit to your line manager for recognizing that as well. I think that's really good when you've got that support.
Massively. And I think with imposter syndrome, I know a lot of people do struggle with it. For me, having my line manager recognize my skill set and say, no, actually, we agree, made a massive difference. I still have wobbles where I'm like, I'm really a designer. I didn't go to uni, and I come up against marketing companies and they're all agency backgrounds and they've got graphic design degrees and things like that. But I've had nearly 5 years of experience actually doing the role now, and I do need to believe that I am doing it. I am suitable to do it. So yeah.
Yeah. And hey, look, I mean, the fact that you won the design award probably speaks volumes to that, right? So no, that's fantastic.
It is hard.
Definitely. Well, look, I think that's a really good kind of segue into the main bit of our chat, Victoria, because I'm going to make a generalization here, but I would imagine most people who are going to be listening today are probably going to be in a similar situation, whether they're designers or not. They're going to be doing their own design for bids, within the process, may not have anyone else to kind of lean on. So I think your expertise in this is really, really going to help them. So I'm hoping that we're going to cover three main aspects within this. Obviously, why design is so important to the bid process, why we should think about it as an integral part, how design can help shape actually the content itself as well as the messaging for really compelling proposals, and then hopefully get a little bit of your experience of what we should be thinking about when we're designing ourselves, again, if we're in a similar position, and maybe some hints and tips on what we should be looking for. So, guess where I want to start is, and I think with most bid functions, right, I can certainly attest to this. Design just feels like something that you bring in at the end. You've done all of your content and you've been focused on that, and you maybe haven't been focused on the look and feel and graphics and all that sort of thing. From your experience, why do you think that that's kind of the current state of play? Why do you think that design is treated as this sort of afterthought in proposals?
So I think timing, especially within our industry, the proposals tend to come in with very short turnaround times. It's all hands on deck to get the questions answered. There isn't really time to think, what is it going to look like? Definitely on the bigger lead time ones. And I think design is incorporated quite well there, where we know we've got maybe a month to answer the proposal. But on the shorter ones, it's just the last minute, because you can't start designing until you know what's going to actually be in there. So yeah, I'd say timing.
Yeah, and I definitely get that. I've been in so many proposals, I guess you have as well, where 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that's really difficult to try and think about where it fits in. From that point of view, what do you see changes when design is brought into the bid process earlier? So, maybe not even just at kickoff, but earlier into the process in terms of capture. So you're in those conversations. What's the benefit to that?
Definitely. I think if we know up front that there's going to be appendices, the designer or even the bid manager at that point can start ahead of time working on what does that look like? How is this the most user-friendly delivery of appendices? Is it a web link that hosts them all? Are we using the right conventions? Are we embedding them in the document that they need? Things like that upfront we are going to need to attach our project on. Can the designer start working on that? Instead of, we've done the whole document and we've not embedded it, let's just send it as an additional. Anything that will make that an easier process for the designer and for the end user upfront. So if you can have at the capture session, we're going to need appendices, we're going to send them to some web links, we're going to need a graphic building for a structure chart, anything like that at that point that the designer can then go away and work on and get the SME input. Instead of being last minute, it's great, basically. Anything that you can sit and even kickoff call is helpful. I know you said at capture stage. Capture stage, you can have some kit bag material ready to dip in and dip out that you use for every case. But at kickoff, it's really important to involve the designers so they can start to get to work on what's needed for the full proposal.
Yeah, that kit bag that you've just referenced really resonates, because I guess when we talk about bank content or, content management library, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I suppose particularly in my head, I always think about the written content. But I guess actually we should be thinking about the design content as being part of that as well.
Yeah. And I'm quite a strong believer that your database should hold your graphics alongside your content, instead of just written word in there. And also those graphics should be editable, so you can pull them out, they come across together, and then should you need to change client name, should you need to do anything, you can amend it. That is then in your working document from day one, instead of here's all the content, now will you go away and find this graphic and this graphic. It's alongside, and it saves so much time when it comes to design at the end of it. I often get content that's pulled together with screenshots, and it'll say, please can you put this graphic in and amend it, but then I have to go down a rat race trail to try and find where that originally came from, and the time spent where I then go back to the person and say, you included this screenshot, can you tell me where it came from? And they'll say, oh, I've got it on a PowerPoint, let me just, if they just put the original in, or a link to the original, or if the ideal world it's including the content, that would save so much time.
And I would imagine that helps with the content itself, Victoria, right? Because if you're just bunging design elements, graphics or charts or whatever in at the end of the proposal, there must be a difficulty then in trying to get the written content to match what you want the design to look like. So there must be benefits to that as well.
Yeah, and especially when it depends what your output is going to be, whether you're doing it in Word or InDesign, PowerPoint can be used for RFPs as well. If you are using InDesign, for example, and you have your wireframe, your working document that's Word, the designer or myself could start popping the content in, but then if you get a note that says put an image in there, that pushes absolutely everything out. It could take your 15 pages to 20 pages and you've got to move it all around in white space. There's so much to think about. So if there is going to be graphics up front, there needs to be a placeholder or the actual graphic from the beginning, definitely.
That's a top tip right there. I'm going to take that one straight away. How do you, just whilst we're talking about putting graphics onto the page, for most of us, I guess that's going to be really great to think about, and we're going to be able to get a lot out of that. How does your view on design change when you've got those much more restricted proposals and tenders? So say, the wonderful beloved portal submissions that we all love, where you can only put text in. Is there a way that you can easily bring design into that so that it's still prevalent?
I wouldn't say it's easy, and it's definitely end user evaluator specific, but in those situations, what we would tend to do from a design point of view, send either an exec summary or a brochure, something that is separate to the portal. So you've given your yes, no answers in the portal, but then here is a high level overview of everything we've given you in the portal in a nice, easy to read brochure. We call it brochure, magazine style. Again, timing. If timing allows, that's perfect. But there is instances where that's never going to get to the evaluator because they only accept the portal response. What we would tend to do, and what I'd like to do, is have a web link that houses all that information, because you can drop the web link directly into that portal survey response, and that can link out to any attachments as well. And then all your appendices can be housed, and then you can put a client branch on there and flex it. But again, portals can be quite strict, and they can say, we won't click out of the portal. Unfortunately, your hands are tied there. And I think as long as your answers are formatted well and consistent, it'll give the end user a better experience. One thing I do see with portals is when you're inputting, we often work in a Word document on the side and then pick portal, is bullet points.
Yeah.
Very frustrating, because you could take it from a Word document and the bullet points look fantastic. You drop it into the portal and you get the little squares, or you get the bullet points attached to the Word. It's really important. Same with Excel submissions. It's really important just to go and put those breaks in, because the end user is going to get it and it's just going to throw them off. It is time consuming. So I think allowing time to take from your Word document to the portal and check that formatting is really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think particularly when you've got those character count restricted portals as well, and you mentioned bullets, that's always one of my bugbears, is when you pull the bullets across, and in Word you think it's like one character and the portal takes it as about 10 or something like that. Horrible.
That's time. It's really time constraining. It's really it's frustrating, and I think when portals come up, we need to allow ourselves a good chunk of time just for the formatting, especially when you have to save, and if it's refreshes and you lose your data, they can be really frustrating. They have their own annoyances, but then when you think, well, nobody's going to get assessed on design. That is the other way to look at it. Is if it's portal, your answers are what matter. The written content is what matters. But if you can make it as user-friendly as possible.
Brilliant. So, look, if we've been able to kind of cover that in our bid processes and we've managed to embed it really well, then, as you've said, it's not just a presentation thing alone. There's a lot more benefits to that from our point of view. Let's now flip it the other way. So from an evaluator's point of view, when they're looking at those proposals, I guess design, number one, helps. But I'd be really interested to know if you've got any examples from where designs genuinely influenced a bid outcome, and if it has, what was the feedback? What made the difference in that design piece?
So I guess the feedback that I've had on design that has influenced a win decision is actually at pitch stage, not proposal stage. I get involved in my role in the presentations. I call them beauty parades. I don't know if that's a pension specific thing or it's across bid management, but we'll call them presentations, not beauty parades. I get involved at that stage, and a lot of the time that's fully client branded. A hurdle as a designer, and I know every designer will say this, is client branding. Unless you receive the client brand guidelines, it's an interpretation of the brand from what you can find on their website, what you can find on annual reports that they've put out that are accessible on the web. So for this particular one, it was fully client branded with brand guidelines, which was the cherry on the cake. It's the best thing that you get, because you've got full autonomy to use their brand, and it's not just your own interpretation of it. The feedback that was received on that was, can't remember the verbatim feedback, but something along the lines of, your designer could do with speaking to our marketing team because the presentation of this has been fantastic. And that was in the actual why you won feedback. So a lot of the time when we look at design, it is just a shot in the dark. We don't know if they're going to be happy they've received it in their brand, or they're going to be annoyed, or we've made a bit of a mess of their brand because it's interpretation. So to receive that shows that it is being received, and it's something that when they were watching the presentation, they were like, yes, this is great, not just the content, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. Is there an example of where that's kind of flipped the other way, Victoria? I've only worked in very small bid teams in the past. I'm a single member of the bid team in my current organisation. So either I do the design myself, or I give a brief to, say, our marketing team and ask them to do it. Now, we all know that marketing design and content is a little bit different, and they approach it a little bit of a different way to how we do. So have you had any examples where maybe the kind of working with marketing has perhaps got it a little bit wrong? They've not understood how we need to see it from a bid perspective. What's the challenge there?
Yeah, so one that's coming to mind, it was actually when I joined my current role and was asking questions about how do you do things. They were using PowerPoint for their proposals. It gave them, the marketing team, the ability to add brand elements easily, because in Word, you're limited to dropping stuff in the header and the footer and hoping that it'll come as a background, and different, you can put template breaks in, but they do become quite cumbersome. Whereas in PowerPoint, if you've got your content agreed, you can then pop it on the page and do nice things with it, as long as your content's agreed, because otherwise you fall into that category. If they say, can you just remove that paragraph, it doesn't go up the screen as it would on Word. So they were using PowerPoint. They've got a nice template in there. But when they were sending it to the evaluator, they were saving it down as, I think it's PPTS, which basically for the end user, when you open it, it fills your screen. When you turn the page, you can use an animation, so it's like turning a page. Any link on will keep the transitions, and it looks nice. However, you needed to copy and paste from it, you can. If you needed to use Control F to find what the price was, what the fee for the product is, you couldn't. You'd have to just search through. And as an evaluator, when you're receiving normally a PDF, you can use that function. Our marketing team didn't understand that because they just thought they were giving a nice user experience for somebody to sit through and read it, but not to score it against others. So it was quite a challenge, to be honest. I did push very hard on it because at the time we were leaning heavily on the marketing team. So it was finding the balance of saying, this doesn't work, but please keep supporting us. So we did change it, and we changed it to PDF, which then allows you to be able to copy and paste the text and things like that. But it was just really delivering that message to the marketing team to say, this is pensions, this is bids, this is how we need the end to receive it. Although it looks fantastic, it's not user friendly, and that could really make us score.
No, that's really helpful, Victoria, because I think with that we can then, if we have to use our marketing teams and we're not doing the design ourselves, it's almost like acting as the voice of the customer, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're still making sure that it lands as it needs to.
Yeah, and with a marketing team, they cover so many bases. They know what looks good, but they don't understand the product behind it and the bid process, which it is a very unique industry, bidding.
Yeah.
So, having somebody in the bid team it has huge benefits, not just that one example that I gave you. I can give you lots more.
Brilliant. Do you know what we've talked, or you've talked quite a bit and mentioned so far the different mediums of design that you use. So you talked about Word and PowerPoint, Microsoft Office. You talked about InDesign. I guess people might be familiar with Canva as well, from that side of things. As somebody who, as you said at the beginning, has kind of come into design and is self-taught,
Mm-hmm.
what's your view for other people doing the same on what the best mediums are to use? And would you say that there's benefits to using, say, PowerPoint for something over InDesign or Canva, or the other way round? Give us a feel for, the beginner's guide to how to use design platforms well.
Yeah, okay. I guess for me, I've never used Canva in a professional work environment. That's due to restrictions on security for both the firms that I've worked with. You couldn't download apps freely. You'd have to put a full business case in there. That said, I know Canva's got some really good functionality. It's great for presentations and has a lot of pre-built colour schemes and things like that. I have used it on a personal matter. I'm not sure how it works for collaboration. And I think when you're a designer embedded in the bid team, collaboration is key because you have the added benefit that you can work alongside your bid managers. You're not receiving a brief with the content at the end of the process. You can start from day one. What Word and PowerPoint allow is exactly that, especially with Microsoft Teams and SharePoint and everything being a live working document. You could have the proposal, the written document, the question set up, ready to go in no time using templates. The bid manager or the bid writer and the SMEs can be inputting into that. And when time allows, we tend to go from page to page and section to section. So section 1 is now complete. Please go ahead and design. If I'm designing section 1, everybody else can be working on section 2, 3, and 4. In Word, it does that lovely thing of keeping it continuous. It'll just push the pages down. If you're working in InDesign, that needs to be an end of the section complete. Step away from everybody else. You get the content, you work on it, and then you share it back with the team and say, here's section 1, and then link them together. It's not that continuous flow because not everybody can work in InDesign.
Sure.
PowerPoint for RFPs is not my favourite. No, it's not. It's not my favourite. I don't think it's user friendly. Your text will overflow a box and you wouldn't know you've done it. Whereas obviously, if you write in Word, it'll just continue. You can't apply styles the same. So I think unless you're using InDesign, my preference and the ease for everybody overall would be to use Word.
Mhm.
The quick wins in Word would be your styles and your template. We tend to have a question style set up, a body text, your subheadings, your pin headings, and bullet points and numbers. Everybody then uses the same. It saves on formatting. And in an ideal world, content in your database will have the same style setup. So when you export from your database, it drops into your template and no further formatting is needed. That's probably the easiest win I think editing you could achieve if you're not doing that already. I might be teaching people some eggs here, but when I object both big teams, they didn't have styles set up and templates set up.
Yeah, I must admit, it's not the first thing that probably most of us would think about doing. Again, certainly speaking from personal experience, but much like you, I've seen the power of doing it, and it really helps. It's also time saving, right? So,
yeah. And I think it sorts your spacing out on the page, using your contents and using the headers that link with your contents page. That helps everybody that's working in the document. It can break it down on the left-hand side and they can just own their sections. The ability to use sign-off and things like that within SharePoint as well, they're really handy if you're working on a Word document. And of course, the revision history, because everybody's gone, I'm really sorry, I've accidentally just deleted a whole paragraph. And because there's a few of you working, it's synced. To be able to use the search bar and just put version history or version control, and it gives you all the different versions. That within Word, that is such a lifesaver. So yeah, my preference.
amazing.
But I know that some people don't like Word, and I get that as well. And there's Google Documents. I've never worked with Google Documents, so I can't comment. And then obviously Excel, which I'm not sure about you, but I hate Excel submissions. You're just so limited. Absolutely limited.
I must admit, Excel isn't the first thing that comes to mind when I think about good design.
No, it's horrible. You can do bits, but when we tend to get a RFP via with an Excel submission document, they don't want you to touch it. They just want you to put the answer in because they probably take everybody's answers and compare. So yeah, your hands are tied, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. One of the other things that I've heard bid designers like yourself talk about, Victoria, is making submissions and making the documents accessible from a design point of view. In terms of like fonts, colours, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Could you just talk people a little bit more through that and the kind of things that perhaps they should be thinking about in terms of that accessibility from a design point of view?
Yeah, I mean, that one can sit in any role. It doesn't necessarily have to be design because we're really fortunate that Word has that as a tool now. I'm trying to think I'm just going to quickly have a look what that's called, but I believe it's in the review stage and there is actually a tab for checking accessibility. It's really quick. It will go through your whole document and it'll feed back where you've not captioned a picture, whether you've got any text that has somehow dropped out of a Word box if you put one in. And I believe that should be built in at your review stage, or if you're reviewing periodically, click that button, have a look and see where it is. Sometimes brands, for some reason, are inaccessible and you'll have a font that is their main font, but actually when it's on a screen, it's not that user friendly. I would substitute that to an Arial, to something that everybody's used to reading with. And I feel like with Arial, they will understand that it's being used as a substitute, not as we're trying to find your brand and get closest match. It's there to be reader friendly. Because at the end of the day, you want the text to be digestible and not be struggling and think, actually, I can't. Like red on white, for example, isn't the best. So to hide things, you're using something that stands out and it's bold, but not impinging on the accessibility.
Nice. I didn't know about that accessibility. piece in Word.
Yeah. The other thing that, as a bid team, I'm sharing all our best secrets here. We tend to do is use Copilot. If you have Copilot license, drop your PDF into Copilot and say, please can you review this for accessibility point of view. You can also ask it to check our terminology, the tone of voice. We have an agent. I don't want to share too much. No, we have an agent.
No.
It's great, and I think everybody should use it. We have an agent, an RFP agent that will drop into Copilot and asks it a set of prompts just to check everything. And when you're working on multiple RFPs at once, it's very easy to become snowblind, to miss the acronym that's actually somebody's name or something like that. And the RFP agent's really good at picking those up.
Amazing. Hey, we've done pretty well to get through this amount of time in a podcast without talking about AI. Right?
I know.
So what do you see the other benefits of AI in design could be? Again, particularly for those of us who may not have a dedicated design resource. How can we best use AI to make some good time or design efficiencies with what we're doing there?
AI is constantly evolving. When it first was used alongside PowerPoint, for example, you could say, create me a slide on this. It wouldn't quite get it. Recently, just speaking from Copilot, not speaking from any other AI platform, it's embedded more into PowerPoint, and you can say, trim the content on this slide, and it will do it very, very quickly and quite accurately. As long as your key messages are there, which from my experience, it has tended to pick that up, it's great. Now, I caveat that massively with, I have recently used it to trim some slides down. It was an ask of somebody else within the team, but I knew the functionality was there. It trimmed the slide down. It also made a backup copy that was hidden, and about 3 days prior to the presentation, Copilot decided to spit them back into my document.
Oh.
So, the caveat is, it's great. However, there is glitches, and you can't control them. What I've advised my whole team is anybody using it in a standalone app, not within your PowerPoint document that you're working on, just in case that ever happens again. And then also, if you can ask it to simplify graphics, you can drop it. This is a really good win. You can drop an image that somebody has screenshotted, say a structure chart, into Copilot, into Gemini, into ChatGPT, and say, recreate this into a PowerPoint slide for me. And it will. And then you can then take it into your working document and use the elements again. That for me is such a huge time saver. When someone says, I found this in a PDF years ago and I've just got the screenshot, can you recreate it? For me, copying text from one to another is time consuming. It's risky, especially when numbers are involved. You might get the number in the wrong place. Copilot can help you with that. And obviously sense check it, make sure it's brought everything across. But it's a huge time saver. I would just be careful with its glitches.
Definitely. Yeah, I think you're quite right. It's that human in the loop conversation coming back again around using AI, isn't there?
I don't think we need to fear it completely. I think we just need to be sensible in how we use it. And of course, anything you're putting into Copilot is going somewhere. So the caveat on content, what are you asking it to review? Work version. I think that is more locked down, but again, security policies and IT will be able to confirm that for individuals. But yeah, it is now more embedded within Word, and it is embedded within Microsoft apps. I would just be careful that once you are amending it directly in your document, that it doesn't retain the information and spit it back out at a later date. That has not happened to me.
Definitely. Victoria, this has been fantastic. You've talked through a lot of stuff here that I think is going to be really, really helpful for people. What do you think's the most practical way that, whether it's an individual or whether it's a big team, what's the most practical way you think that people can start embedding design thinking earlier in their bid processes?
Thinking about the end user. Take away the question set, take away the client, take away everything else, and just think there is somebody at the end of this who's going to receive 3, 4, 5, 6 proposals. What can we do to make ours stand out and be the most easiest to digest? And then take it from there.
Amazing. Sound advice. I think that's wonderful. We're gonna wrap this up, Victoria, by doing some a couple of quick fire questions.
Go for it.
let's try and make this as speedy as possible. You up for this?
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. So how do you see design and bidding evolving over the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
It's only going to get more elevated, more digital, and more end user friendly.
Nice. If you could get every bid team or bid function or bid person to adopt just one of the design principles that you've talked about from tomorrow, what would it be?
A template with styles.
There you go. Everyone take note of that and go and look at your template.
A template with styles.
And last one, you're obviously really passionate about design in your day job. Does that seep into life outside your day job a bit? Have you got a design related pet peeve, or do you kind of go past things in your outside of work life and go, that could have been so much better designed?
Exactly that point. Like the things you see, just like, what did they think? Did they pay a marketing team to do that? Like, how has somebody come to the end? Like that. Yeah, there is many things where accessibility is the big one. You just look at something and you're like, that's not user friendly. Why has somebody gone down that decision process to do that? But yeah, design is everywhere. Every advert you get, it's constantly at the forefront of my mind. And again, when you see something really good, you're like, yeah, that's really good. This is really, really off piece. But I was watching something on Amazon Prime the other day and the advert came on with a link to click to shop for it. I was like, that is good. That is clever.
That completely speaks to that end user experience that you talked about, Victoria, doesn't it? Yeah.
It feels going with things. Like, again, I passed the sale sign the other day and it had a QR code on it to take you directly to that property on the market. I'm like, yes, this is where we need to be. We are getting there. So, much as bad things I see, there is also good things out there, and people are coming up with out of the box thinking and elevating what we have every day and the tools at our fingertips and putting them together.
Amazing. Victoria, thank you. This has been really, really great. I think we're going to wrap up now. But what I'm going to take away from this discussion, and I hope other people do as well, is that we should be thinking about design as that key integrated part of a bid process. Let's not leave it till the end. Let's build in as much as we can up front because it's so much more beneficial. Let's think about how we're using the design to actually be part of the content and work with it and help that to together land the messaging that we want to do. And then I'm going to go away and start looking at my templates and styles and work out what I'm going to do with those, because that sounds like a really, really good win. So that's fantastic. Look, I'd encourage everyone off the back of this conversation to really think about some of the stuff Victoria's said and start thinking about what improvements can you make in your design process. How can you bring that thinking more to the forefront of your content, how you manage that, and how you make sure that that really lives and breathes throughout your bid process. Victoria, if people want to learn any more about design principles, are there any groups or any events coming up, UK or internationally, that they can come and learn a little bit more?
Yeah, so I'm part of the APMP design focus group. That is bid and proposal management, and we run webinars, and there's a roadshow coming up along with the writing group that will focus just exactly on that, on quick wins for design. There'll be lots of hints and tips in there. The webinars, I think the webinar is available via LinkedIn. The design focus group is on LinkedIn, and then you can click into that and take it from there. But the roadshow's September, and it is Manchester based in the UK.
Brilliant. That's great. I'm sure we can share more details about that so that people can look at joining in, because it sounds like a really...
Probably, hopefully the people that are listening today, it's tailored just to those people. You might not be a designer, you may be a bid writer, you may be a bid manager, you may be the manager of bid managers, and it's just there to share best practice and to really ensure that design is integrated from the get-go and not at the last minute.
Fantastic. Victoria, thanks very much for your time. Really enjoyed this chat, and I'm definitely going to be taking away a lot from this. So thank you very much. And thanks everybody for listening as well. This has been the Optimize podcast, brought to you by VisibleThread. Hope to see you again soon.
You've been listening to the Optimize podcast from VisibleThread. A special thank you to our host, Matt Light, for bringing his experience and passion for the bidding profession to the series. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe wherever you're listening to stay up to date with future episodes and series from industry experts. Thanks for listening.